right, Morgan. So what do we have for them today?
So like we said in the intro, it is a little bit of a different styled episode, but the universe gave this to us, okay? They did this to us for a reason. They knew Taylar was going to lose her voice.
They knew Taylar was going to have permanent vocal cord damage.
So I'm going to jump right into it. And Taylar, I hope you can agree with me on this first statement that growing up, almost everyone knew what the Bermuda Triangle was.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. You heard stories of people and boats and planes going missing without a trace, but you were never too worried about it because, well, it was in the middle of the ocean. And the chances of you being in that area were like slim to fucking none.
Like zero.
Like, when are you going to be in the Bermuda Triangle?
I'm not.
Nevertheless, it still sparked curiosity. Questions like, what is it? What causes the mysterious disappearances? That was a lot of S's right there.
The Mississippi appearances.
Is it something geographically? Like, is it constantly filled with storms that's overturning planes and boats? Or is it something more, something supernatural? And what if we were to tell you that there's an area here in the United States that mimics the Bermuda Triangle's mysteries, an area called the Bennington Triangle? Ooh, which brings us to our segment today, the Bennington Triangle. Enclosing this triangle are the areas of Bennington, Somerset, and Woodford, Vermont. At the center of the Bennington Triangle, the heart, is what's known as the Glastonbury Mountain, which is part of the Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont. National Forest, red frickin' flag. Are you good over there, ma'am?
I'm getting some honey so my throat will stop hurting.
She's literally putting it on her finger and sucking on honey.
It sounded like a fart whenever I did it, so I'm sorry. It wasn't a fart.
Anyway, National Forest, that's a huge red flag right there. Like, you're already like, okay, well, something's definitely going on there.
Something's not good.
Especially if it's called a triangle, like no.
A triangle in a national park, yeah. It's like the Michigan Triangle with Stephen Kubacki.
Exactly. The town of Glastonbury that contains the Glastonbury Mountain is centered in Bennington County, with Sutherland to the north, Shaftesbury to the west, Woodford to the south, and Somerset to the east. I know that was a lot. We're going to post a map on our Instagram, so you can hop on that. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's right above our heads right now. Most of Glastonbury is the Green Mountain National Forest. Way back when the first settlers found Glastonbury, they found life to be super difficult. Because of the difficult terrain, people tended to stray away from settling in that area. But by the year 1800, there were a total of 8 families living in the Glastonbury area, giving them a population of 48 people.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's a huge town. It is totally poppin'. Bet the nightlife is great over there.
They got a great bar scene.
But newcomers began to arrive in small numbers, and the population grew to 76 in 1810.
Ooh.
And then it decreased to 53 people by the year 1840. But after the Civil War, the town started to experience a rapid growth because the state of Vermont began to recognize the Green Mountain National Forest as a hot spot for lumber. So people were then drawn to the area to work the then booming logging business. But unfortunately for them, the best lumber was located on top of the mountain, and the Glastonbury Mountain was a steep mother effer.
Steep mother effer.
So in order to easily obtain that lumber, they began building a railroad that went up the mountain, which was bringing in even more workers, increasing the population. And fun fact, this was the steepest railroad ever built in the United States.
Oh.
So you can picture, like, that's a tall ass mountain.
Yeah,
right?
Really.
The town reached its highest population in history in the year 1880 with a total of 241 people.
Oh. Nightlife.
Whack. Can you imagine the clubs there? 241. We're like, it's 1880. They didn't have oons. They didn't have EDM music.
No, they're listening to like fiddles and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this shit is whack.
They were honestly probably having a really, really grand old time.
They had like the pubs from like the Hammersmith Ghost and shit. We got the town watchmen standing outside.
But at the same point, the mountain had been cleared of nearly all of the mature trees that could be harvested. So all of these people are moving there for this work and these jobs and this income. But when they got there in 1880, they were like, well, shit, where are all the trees? Because they had already been cut down. Oh. So this caused a quick decline in the population again. In result, to save the town from abandonment, they acted on a promising effort to turn it into a mountain resort area. And in 1898, they did just that. But that following winter, it was wiped out by a freshet. So a freshet is a term used to describe when ice and snow melt, resulting in like a substantial severe flooding, which wiped out the resort and the railroad as a whole.
Oh no, not the railroad.
I know,
and the nightlife.
And then not the clubs.
Jesus, no. Anything but the clubs.
Not the EDM clubs.
No, so like, no, it wouldn't be EDM. It'd be like ET or some shit. Like, I don't know what it is. So anyways, I was watching on TikTok, and it was talking about how it was converting how many inches of snow is compared to inches of rain.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. It was really interesting. It wasn't obviously interesting for me to remember.
Thank you for sharing that interesting fact that you don't remember.
I think you should Google it. Someone Google it. Just Google it. And it's crazy. Right now. It's crazy. Go look it up. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, but it was causing like rapid flooding. Like think of like rivers where they're not supposed to be, wiping everything out. On the most recent 2020 census, the population of Glastonbury had a total of 9 people. I can't believe you just gave us, I'm sorry, I'm not over that. You just gave us a fact, but not a fact at all.
I tried my best.
That's hilarious. Likewise, the neighboring town of Somerset is damn near a ghost town. Somerset sits high up in the Green Mountain National Forest, and its landmass, or sorry, not landmass, but its area as a whole is 7.7% water. So that's like, I mean, it's a small town to begin with, and having that much water is...
That's a ton of water.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very difficult terrain, making it unfavorable to sustain a good economy and thus a high population. It followed the same path as Glastonbury, booming in the mid-1800s with the logging and the railroad, with a record population of 321 people. So Somerset probably did have better nightlife than Glastonbury.
Yeah.
But then it substantially decreased. At the 2000 census, there were 5 people living in the town of Somerset, containing 2 households and only 1 family residing in the town.
Oh.
Can you imagine that?
No, because I would literally go absolutely insane.
And at 2020 census, there were 6 people that lived in the town of Somerset. So right now, the state like hardly even declares it a town. Like it's more of like
I just couldn't imagine. I get people live off the grid and really enjoy it.
Right, yeah. I don't want to take away from that because that's really dope. Like,
that's really cool.
To be one with nature, like that's super cool. But where are your targets? Where's your Walmart?
What do you do if you need
a smoothie bowl?
Yeah, where do you get your acai bowls?
Where do you
get your acai bowls? No, really though. Like, where do you go to get food? And I don't mean like where do you get your vegetables, your meat, your dairy, because I'm sure there's probably people in your community that can provide that, because if you're living off the land, you're probably doing some trade.
Right.
But like, where do you get your Cheez-Its? Where do you get your Coke?
Right. Can you Amazon Prime?
Where do you get your coffee?
Can you order Shein?
Yeah, Shein.
Where
do you get your glass straws?
Where are your glass straws? Where are your happy smiley face slippers? No, I think it is super cool to.
It is really cool. I'm jealous of that, to be able to let go of like all the material things in the world.
Material girl.
I want you now, boo. But yeah, seriously though, like that's so freeing to be able to let go of all that. I just don't know that I would be able to, since that was the way I was raised, with that all at my fingertips. You know.
Exactly. The towns of Bennington and Woodsford, they had a little bit more success than the other two, with their population increase due to the better terrain that they had. They were located below the mountain range and both filled with rivers and lakes that were providing a good water source back then and were colonized in 1761. Bennington played a huge part in the Revolutionary War and is known for its Battle of Bennington.
Oh, wow.
Super cool. Currently, there are about 15,000 people total that make up Old Bennington, Downtown Bennington, and North Bennington. And there are 355 people that make up Woodford, Vermont.
Oh.
But prior to all the settlements of all of these towns, the land belonged to the Western Abenaki of the Wabanaki Confederacy. I'm really hoping I'm doing those words justice. I have the notes in... Like, I have the pronunciations in my notes, but even then, I'm still illiterate. Anyway.
Just reach out to us and let us know if it's incorrect.
Yeah. These people were indigenous to the Dakina, which extended across most of northern New England and into Quebec and southern Canadian Maritimes. And according to Native American lore, this area that makes up the Bennington Triangle is cursed. The natives of the area had long been aware of that eeriness it gives and the curse on the land, and for the most part have avoided it and have urged others trying to colonize it to avoid it.
Oh my God.
And they avoided it for one main legend. This legend is an Algonquin legend that spoke of a man eating stone. that sat high up in the Glastonbury Mountain. The Native Americans knew of it, and they warned people away. But no one alive has seen this dangerous killing anomaly. And I say no one alive. Alive, okay? Alive. Because the man-eating stone is exactly what it sounds like. Legend goes that anyone who was unlucky enough to step on it, the stone would open up and devour them.
Oh.
It was man-eating.
A man-eating stone.
Can you imagine
Not a
that?
woman-eating stone. Man.
Some other legends say that it would devour any type of colonist or settler that was trying to colonize the land.
It's a dope ass rock then.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, this is my land, get the fuck out of here.
I am the man-eating stone. Did you not hear about me?
Sorry. Where am I? The Native Americans also believe that the mountaintop was where the four winds met. So this is actually really freaking cool. When natives pray or do anything sacred, they see the world as having four directions. The directions that we know: west, north, east, and south. And from these four directions come the four winds. So, a brief little information spill. Wind from the west signifies the end of life. Wind from the north signifies cleansings. Wind from the east signify wisdom in helping people live good lives. And winds from the south signify warmth and growth.
Aww.
Isn't that so cool?
That is so nice.
And when the four winds come together, it creates an extremely spiritual place. And on top of Glastonbury Mountain, Native Americans believed that this took place. This is where the four winds met. So because of this, they strictly only used this area as a burial ground for their people. And besides that, they stayed away from it. And this wariness of the area continues on to this day. There is such bad vibes, bad juju, whatever you want to call it, that people can't even get themselves to walk into the forest that surrounds the mountain. And those that do say the silence is deafening.
Oh my God.
They say there are no birds singing. There's no squirrels that are cycling through the trees. There's nothing. In fact, it is so quiet that you hear nothing but your own heartbeat and breath.
Literally no.
Yeah, literally, I think not.
Literally no.
There's no signs of animals being in the area, as if maybe they knew better than to be in the area. Like they knew about the man freaking eating stone.
Yeah.
There was something there keeping everybody out, including the animals. And maybe what was scaring everyone off is something known as the Bennington Monster.
Dun, dun, dun.
The first sighting of the Bennington Monster occurred in the early 1800s, when a horse and carriage full of passengers was forced to stop on a then washed out muddy road. The driver stopped because he noticed something unusual. There on the muddy road was huge footprints. Human footprints, but way too big to be a human's foot. Once stopped and things got quiet, because again, it's like deafening there. The stagecoach was attacked, stagecoach carriage, whatever. The stagecoach was attacked by a large creature, knocking the vehicle over on its side. So we need to talk about this because do you know how heavy that shit has to be?
That bitch was big.
It was big, and you have to think there's probably 15 people, 20 people on it, piled in.
Tons of wood.
Tons of belongings.
Literally, horses are attached.
And this creature was able to knock this carriage onto its freaking side.
Oh my God.
Like that's
insane.
Strong dude.
Someone's gonna be like, actually, a carriage only weighs 25 pounds.
I know, we're gonna get
somebody about
catch
that.
us on shots fired.
Yeah.
So the passengers, then scared shitless, were on their side, literally laying on their side, knocked over, right? They see something peek in, and what they see is a glowing pair of eyes.
No.
Right before they heard a loud roar and watched as this monster bolted into the forest.
No.
This creature has been spotted numerous times over the last 2 centuries. Each account describing the creature as a large, hairy, black being standing over 6 feet tall. Sound familiar? Because the Bennington Monster is fucking Bigfoot.
It is fucking Bigfoot.
With the numerous oh God, I can't even speak. With the numerous Bigfoot sightings, man-eating rock, eeriness, abandoned towns, the Bennington Triangle creates a super unwelcoming feeling to the area. A stay out feeling, like the movies, really.
Yeah.
And some listen, but others do not. And what gives the Bennington Triangle its names are the unsolved murders and numerous mysteries that have occurred in this area the last century. Because some people who enter the forest-covered mountain never come out of it alive.
So this is where I'm going to take you down a path and discuss all of the murders and mysterious disappearances in this area. I'm going to start off on April 4th, 1892. Harry McDowell, a mill worker in Fayetteville, Glastonbury, aka the heart of the Bennington Triangle, snapped. Out of nowhere, during a regular workday in the mill, McDowell turned to his co-worker, John Crowley, and began bludgeoning him to death with a rock and a piece of wood.
Oh my God.
Like, holy shit. So once McDowell realized that John was officially dead, he ran out of the mill and fled. He was later captured by police in Norwalk, Connecticut.
What? How'd he get there?
I literally couldn't tell you.
Portals?
Probably the train portals in the National Forest. Yes. So when they get to him, he immediately confesses, and he says to police, "It was the voices that told me to do it."
Wait. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but how cool is that they found him all the way in another state?
I literally don't know how that happened. He had to have turned himself in. There's no way that they found him.
Right.
There's
no phones.
No, there's no pictures that you could. There's no fax machines.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
You know. So yeah, he had to have turned himself in. So, when he gets there, he's like, "Oh, it was the voices, and I had to do it to protect myself because the voices were forcing me to." And they were like, "Okay." So they sent him to the Waterbury State Hospital. And after months of being there, he somehow escaped onto a railroad delivery cart inside of a ton of coal.
Oh my God.
And was never to be seen again. But locals believe he actually came back to the heart of the triangle and lived out the rest of his life in the woods.
Oh, he's big. He's the Bennington
Bigfoot.
Monster.
I mean, 6 foot's kind of average for a person.
What's his name? Henry what?
Henry McDowell.
Henry McDowell.
AKA Harry McDude.
Henry the Bennington Monster.
Yeah, that's who he is.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah, he is.
So on October 1st, 1897, on the opening day of Vermont's first statewide deer season, dun, 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 big day for the boys.
Yes.
40-year-old John Harbour, John Harbour of Woodford and his 2 best friends went out to Bickford Hollow searching for bucks. And the group at some point got separated, going, chasing their own leads. And this would typically happen, when you're hunting. I don't know off of firsthand, but that's just what I read. And they said
that sounds right.
Yeah, and they're like, when that happens,
we're huge hunters, so we know for sure.
We love guns and camo.
We love deer, bloody deer,
deer meat good,
camo, tree stands, and guns. We love it all.
I like taking pictures of my ducks afterwards.
You know what's so funny? Sorry, I really am sidetracking here. Is that whenever my dad, for those that don't know, his name is Bucky. Yeah. And that's not his real name, but that's what he's been called his whole entire life. He is a huge hunter, outdoorsman, fisherman. He fishes tournaments, whatever, sidetrack. He's also a taxidermist. So he loves hunting, okay? Anyway, when I was younger, we live in not a crazy farm area, but more it's a neighborhood, okay? Mm-hmm. And on deer season, I would get off the school bus, okay?
Oh, shit.
I would get off the school bus and everyone would be looking out their window because strung up on my basketball hoop, my basketball
You're
net,
lying to me.
is a gutted deer, okay? A gutted deer. Every deer season, everyone knew it was coming. Everyone would be out the window. And I was just so embarrassed. It was just dripping blood in our neighborhood. I'm telling you, I have neighbors, okay? I know it sounds like I don't, but I do. And just imagine me in 5th grade getting off the school bus to a gutted deer, dripping blood.
I would sob.
Of deer season. That was my life. So anyway.
I would be shoving over the thing so no one would see it. I'd be before school, Dad, please don't put the deer on the
Dad,
thing.
Please don't gut the deer on our basketball hoop.
First off, this is where we play.
Go behind the house, under the deck, something.
There's trees back there too.
We have a whole freaking forest.
You have a forest back there.
Oh my god.
Dad, I'll put a pole back here. We can get a second basketball
it's
hoop.
right, like in spot, like he was proud of it. He was showing it all. It's cute, but like it's not cute.
That is so bad.
All right, anyway, go ahead.
So anyways, they basically were saying like whenever we would just get separated, we would meet up at camp at the end of the day, like, right before the sunset. And so this is what they did. Well, on the way back, the two friends found each other, but they couldn't find John. Did I just have a stroke? Yes.
Yeah.
They couldn't find John. So they just started walking back when they hear a gunfire. And then immediately after, they hear their buddy John scream that he had been shot.
What?
So immediately they start running towards the sound of his voice, but they're searching for him. They're screaming. He's not screaming back. They don't hear him anymore. And there's no sign of him.
Right. And they're hunters, which means they're like trackers. They wouldn't know.
They would know like
where to go with where the gunshot was coming from.
Right. Like
where
be able
screams,
to identify, especially with how silent we know that these are. Mm-hmm. These woods are, from what you described to us. Like, it's not like it's a loud forest with construction work going on beside like my house right now, but like, you know what I mean?
So they couldn't find him.
No, so they couldn't find him anywhere. They're searching, and they search until nightfall. So they finally, when the sun goes down, they make their way back to town, and they're calling for help. The next morning, search parties go out, and they find John's body leaning up against a cedar tree where he had bled out.
Oh my God.
His rifle was fully loaded and unused, laying directly beside him, and it looked as if he had been drugged to this area and propped up against the tree. Police were unable to even consider suspects as there were no witnesses and zero evidence to be found. Therefore, the case went cold quickly.
And you know what's even crazier? Is that he's a hunter.
Yeah.
He would have fought back. He would have shot.
Yeah. They said that he just had one shot.
So he was ambushed by something or someone.
And like, it's basically what I was reading is some people in the town said that his friend shot him, but the friends were like there to witness for each other, and like, no, we didn't. And everybody's like, why would they do it? Like, they were all really good friends, good people. Right. Like, their families were close. Whole like
dragging and leaning them up against a tree with his gun, like that does show some sign of like remorse.
Yeah,
or, like
it wasn't like it's like when people cover people's faces after they murder them.
Yeah,
like it's like you want to make them comfortable.
Right, like some type of humanity is in there.
So then I wondered, in my own opinion, if like there was a lot of people out hunting that day and he was mistaken.
Yeah.
Or got caught in like a line of fire or someone's aim on accident.
Yeah.
Because the forest was dense, very dense.
Right.
So yeah.
That's so scary. Hunting in public land, that always freaks me out.
Yeah, that is scary. I would not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move into some of the most infamous disappearances in this area. In this area, because I can't talk right. I'm having to talk in my lowest octave.
You sound like just proper, like in this area.
I'm like whatever. I don't even know anymore. I wish I could talk. Okay, so in the southwestern woods of Glastonbury on November 12th, 1945, 74-year-old Mitty Rivers was a local hunting guide. Mitty knew these woods like the feeling of his own bed. It was home. An experienced outdoorsman, hunter, and survivalist, Mitty was leading a group of 4 hunters through dense woods and the mountainous terrain, specifically in an area called Hell Hollow.
Oh, hell to the no.
Immediately, no.
Hell Hollow in a national park?
Yeah, that's an immediate no from me, dog.
Yeah, you would not be catching me there.
No, like...
even if it had the best deer of the season.
Well, first off, if there's a place in a national park called Devil, Hell, Satan, I'm not going there.
No, what?
Especially in a place like this.
And who names it that?
Really, though, like, why did it get that name?
Hell Hollow.
Hell to the no hollow.
Hell to the no hollow. Hell to the no.
So at the end of the day, before nightfall, Mitty began leading his group back to the camp. He was leading this group down the Long Trail, and in this specific area, the Long Trail runs directly along Vermont Highway Route 9. The Long Trail is one of the most famous hiking trails in Vermont, stretching the entire length of the state, similar to the Appalachian Trail. They are all sharing conversation, just discussing their day as you would, like if you're walking, on a hike or something. And this is what they had been doing between like moving areas and stuff the entire time. And Mitty just slowly began falling silent. Moments later, he picks up his pace, almost trying to distance himself from the group. The 4 hunters were confused, trying to keep up, but they just later fall behind until they realize that Mitty is slowly slipping from their view, assuming that he just like needed to shit immediately and get back to camp, or like maybe he was like trying not to crop dust them. They're like, all right, we'll just meet him back at the camp to do your thing, man.
I also love his name, Mitty.
Mitty.
If you ever catch me naming my kids Mitty, mind your business.
Mitty Rivers, isn't that like a jazz singer?
I don't know, but
I took history of jazz after history of rock.
Yeah, I was not in that class.
Yeah.
You guys know how history of rock went.
So, anyways, so Mitty slips from their view. They're like, okay, we're just going to get back to the camp and wait on him. So they get there, and there's no sign of him. They waited, figuring maybe he like took a long trail or like went to the bathroom or something, but he never returns. So they call the police. Knowing how well Mitty knew this area, no one was really pressed about this because they were like, first off, he is an outdoorsman. He grew up in this area. He knows it like the back of his hand. And he's a survivalist. So he's probably just going to show up at the pub or something in like an hour.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, or he's going to like show up at his house and be like, hey, what's going on? So they didn't really think much of it, but he never returned the next day. So extensive searches were conducted by locals and actually military personnel in the surrounding areas, which is like a red flag to me. The second that the military feels the need to get involved.
Right. It's like the case in Gatlinburg, the little boy.
Yeah, like whenever military or like higher like government stuff comes in, besides like state police, I'm like, something's not right.
Right.
We know something.
Yeah.
So they started doing these extensive searching around this area, and the only thing they discover is a single rifle cartridge in a stream close by the area that he went missing. Mitty Rivers has never been found, and neither have his remains or any belongings of his. Nothing.
So a rifle cartridge, that means he shot, right?
No, I think that means, from my understanding, because I was asking Logan, does it mean that he shot at something? Because they said it looked like it had fallen out of his pocket because they had actually been in that area, like leaning over. Okay. So maybe he did shoot it and he picked it up, or it was unshot.
Oh, we have no idea.
We don't know anything about guns.
Oh my gosh, poor Mitty.
Yeah, Mitty never
I'll name
returned.
my kid after you, Mitty, so you'll never be forgotten.
Mitty River Harris.
Mitty River.
I was gonna say Mount. Mitty Mount. Keep your last name and do that.
Yeah, sorry, Aaron.
Sorry, Aaron, you're out.
You're gone. Gonzo.
So a year later, on December 1st, 1946, this one's crazy. 18-year-old college sophomore from Bennington College, Paula Jean Weldon, decided to go on a hike after getting off work at the dining hall at her college. It was about 50 degrees and a sunny day in December, which is rare.
Right, especially in Vermont.
Yeah,
it's
right?
Crap there.
Yeah. So she was just trying to find like happiness and warmth wherever she could, just like anybody at the end of your first fall semester. You know
right,
what
and you're working at a dining hall. Those
doubles
college
too.
Kids are rude as shit.
Yeah, and like half of them, like half of her friends had already gone home for winter break. The other half are stressed out about finals and stuff. So, you know, like that's just a weird time really though for anybody that is in college.
And in college when you went on a hike or something, that was always the most like freeing and like relaxing moment.
Especially if you do this solo anything, eating by yourself, like that is just so freeing. So that's what she was trying to do. She was just trying to like, you know, be centered with herself.
Excuse my drink. Sorry.
Yeah, good God, all the ice in that. So she had worked a double that day actually, and most of her friends, as I said, had gone home, but her roommate was still there. So she went back to her dorm room and she changed into a red parka, blue jeans, and white tennis shoes, and told her roommate what her plans were, invited her, but she had something going on so she couldn't go. And then Paula left and headed towards the long trail at around 2:30 p.m. So students reported seeing her leave the dorm and walk towards the entrance of the college at 2:45 p.m. In fact, a classmate saw her at that time named Lewis Knapp and actually offered her a ride to the long trail, to the entrance of it, which she accepted. So at around 4 p.m., she was on the trail when Ernest Whitman and his group of 3 friends who were camping in the area were talking to her because she had asked for directions to a bridge. And about a half hour after that, some other students saw her further up the trail and recognized her because they had classes together. But as the sun started to set, Paula's roommate knew something was wrong because she figured, like, you know, she'd be back before dark. Everybody comes back from the long trail before dark. But as the sun set and the moon became the only source of light in the sky, with temperatures dramatically dropping to now 9 degrees
Oh my gosh.
and 3 inches of freshly fallen snow, her roommate was very worried but hoping for the best, thinking like maybe she just went to go spend the night with a friend or like something.
Yeah.
But when she didn't show up for work the next morning on December 2nd, her parents were contacted. Groups of students began searching for her on the long trail, going from bridges to caves to side trails, everything. Yeah, literally. And they're just like calling her name and looking for the red parka. And by December 3rd, larger search parties were put into place, with newspapers printing her face on the front page with a description of her clothing, which is when we developed the timeline that I just gave you. At this point, Paula's father is calling the shots and calling any and everyone that he knew for help. He was able to have a 120-man search party from the State Guard,
Wow.
NYPD, Massachusetts State Police, and 2 airplanes being flown overhead by locals.
Holy shit.
And even the FBI's involvement.
Holy crap.
Whoever,
Who is that?
I don't know. I like want to
He's
figure
the
out.
shit.
Yeah, he's
clearly.
got to be very wealthy.
But here's the FBI again, the government getting involved.
Like other states, like.
That's crazy.
Well, the reason, I'll get to that why here in a minute. So this search party actually had over 1,000 volunteers looking for Paula. However, by December 15th, they had to end the entire search, like altogether, foot in air, because there was just no sign of her.
Oh my gosh.
There was even a $5,000 reward placed for any information by the FBI. And in May of 1947, when the snow had finally melted, Paula's father organized yet another 2-day search with these same people involved. But even still, there was no sign of Paula. Paula's father was enraged at the lack of developed methods to search this area by the state of Vermont. And 7 months after her disappearance, after fighting and pushing, the Vermont State Police Force was formed by the pushing of Paula's case by her father. 18-year-old Paula has never been found to this day, and neither has any of her belongings.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly 3 years after Paula's disappearance, on December 1st, 1949, 68-year-old veteran James E. Tedford was traveling from St. Albans, Vermont, where he was visiting family, back to his home at the Bennington Soldier Home on a bus. The bus driver and other passengers saw James in his seat the entire ride from St. Albans to Bennington. He never even stood up to stretch or got off at any of the stops. Specifically, on the last stop before Bennington, he and the driver had a conversation as the doors were shutting, meaning that he was on the train making his way with no way out to Bennington. But as the bus entered the area of the Bennington Triangle, which was on Route 7, James was no longer in his seat.
What?
Assuming that he had moved seats to speak with another passenger, the driver didn't think much of it. Until when the driver went to go check James's seat after dropping off at Bennington, there sat his ticket and all of his belongings, with no sign of the 68-year-old James, and he had never been seen since.
What?
Just disappeared on a moving bus.
And the bus didn't stop?
No. Not once.
What?
None of the windows were open, none of the doors, because it would have alerted the driver.
Portal.
Nothing. Yeah, portal. Exactly. His family, the bus passengers, the drivers, and the police were stunned. Next, on October...
Yeah, how do you even make a case out of that?
You literally can't do anything. He was on a moving bus.
How do you investigate that? Yeah.
He was on a moving bus.
That's insane.
So on October 12th, 1950... 8-year-old Paul Jepson and his mother loaded into their family pickup truck to go tend to the pigs on the family's farm. While his mother was feeding the pigs, Paul decided to stay in the truck and play with his toys in the backseat, as he did often. About an hour later, when his mother returned to the truck to head home, Paul was nowhere to be found. She began searching and screaming for her son. He was wearing his favorite red bright jacket that day.
Not another red jacket.
And his name's Paul. And it was Paul who was wearing a red parka.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
he's wearing this like bright red jacket. She's like screaming for him and assuming that that red jacket would make him easier to spot, but she had no luck. In a panic, she called police and a search party was immediately formed for the 8-year-old Paul. Bloodhounds were brought out to track the boy's scent, and they were able to pick it up, and from the truck, they followed it to the local highway, stopping at a large rock. People speculated that he possibly was wondering when he was, found this giant rock, decided to sit on it
Not
and
the
like,
man-eating rock.
that's what I was thinking, play with his toys. And then since it was on the Route 7, maybe someone came and picked him up and stole him. But locals believe otherwise. Apparently, in the days leading up to Paul's disappearance, his parents said that he would only talk about one thing, and that was the mountains and how they needed him. And lastly,
I have chills.
where the dogs tracked his scent was the same location that Paula Weldon was last seen. 16 days later, on October 28th, 1950, an experienced outdoors woman and survivalist was very familiar with this area and decided to take her husband and her cousin out on a walk. Her name was Frida Langer, and she was 53 years old. Her cousin was Herbert Elsner, and they decided to go on a midday hike on the long trail near the Somerset. Is that what it's called? Somerset?
Yeah.
Yeah. Glastonbury line. Her husband, however, had been really tired from hiking the entire day, and he in fact had like a bum knee. So he was like, I'm just going to sit this one out and stay at the camp. So Herbert and Frida were about a half mile in on their hike. And they were like jumping over this stream. There's like she talked about so much water in this area that there was this big stream that you had to like hop over. And she accidentally slipped into it. So it was freezing, obviously. And so now she's freezing because it's October. So she tells Herbert like, hey, I'm not injured, but I'm literally going to freeze to death. So I'm going to walk back to, it was like a half mile. I'm going to walk back to the camp. You just wait here and I'll be right back. I'm going to change into some clothes. Herbert's like, yeah, that's fine. So he like posts up on a rock and like half an hour goes by and he's like, you know what? I need to go check on her. Maybe she fell or something. So he's walking by and he's like, this is just not like my cousin. She's very proactive. Like, even if maybe she just decided she didn't want to do the hike, she would have come back and told him.
Right.
Or walked back with her husband. So Herbert walks back and he gets to the camp and he's walking the same path that his cousin had just taken moments earlier. But Frida was not there. And her husband, who had been there the entire time, said that she had never returned. What? Immediately, they called the police, knowing that the grim reputation of this area, and the search for Frida began just an hour after she had left Herbert. 400 people showed up, along with the Connecticut Coast Guard, the U.S. Army in Massachusetts, aircrafts from local people again, and the Vermont Aeronautics Commission showed up.
Holy shit.
They combed through the entire area, through the tough terrains, the reservoirs, the streams, the trees, everything that they could, but there was no sign of Frida. Knowing that she was a survivalist and extremely knowledgeable of this area, they prayed and prayed that she would just show up, but she never did. 5 different search efforts were conducted over 2 weeks and beyond, with smaller search parties, and more detailed searches followed. Yet, they were never able to find Frida. 7 months later, on May 12th, 1951, Herbert and the other family members were searching again for Frida, now that the spring was here and the forest floor was now cleared. Herbert had been assigned to search the Somerset Reservoir once again, even though it had been searched millions of times. This area was about 3.5 miles away from the camp where they had originally been staying that 7 months earlier. As he walked through the area, he noticed a pop of color, red, which led him to discover Frida's remains. She was just feet away from the water, badly decomposed. Due to the level of decomposition, her cause of death could not be determined. And she was the last known person to disappear in this area, and the only one ever found. These murders and disappearances are so eerie, and the attackers and victims are never found. There has to be more to this area than we know, which is why the legends and theories are so prominent, filling the gaps of all the thoughts that we have. So, Morgan.
Oh my gosh.
Guys, I'm so sorry for my voice. I was really trying hard
up for this. What the fuck?
What the fuck is going on in
What's
this area?
up with red?
What is up with red? Really, though. And I know I mentioned this a little through and through, but on some of the cases, they didn't have exact timelines, but on others there were. Yeah. And on the majority of them, according to a lot of sites and sources that I was reading, the majority of the disappearances and murders happen between 3 and 4 p.m. Not a.m., p.m.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about the theories. What the fuck is going on in the Bennington Triangle? So, of course, I have a couple different theories for you guys.
Yeah.
The first one I have is that the Bennington Triangle is just a giant energy vortex. Like, again, it's a freaking national park, and we know that shit's got crazy energy. And let's not forget the fact that even the Native Americans that have
inhabited this land for thousands and thousands of years.
For years and years, knew this area created a huge energy. It's where the four winds met. So is it possible that this area in Bennington, Vermont, or the Bennington Triangle has such an intense energy and magnetisms in the ground that it creates some type of vortex?
I mean, yeah.
And a vortex is going to create portals
to different dimensions.
And I don't know if you guys remember me saying this back, well, Patreons will, but back in the National Park Conspiracy Part 2 that was released on Patreon, where I talked about portals, I mentioned a lot how I think personally that portals are really advanced and they open up. They know what they're opening up for, and they know when they're opening up, as if someone is like able to,
tailor them to each of the areas.
Right. And that would explain the disappearances at 3 to 4.
Yeah.
The color red.
They're
attracted.
The red is crazy. But then if we're going to talk about the portals with red, then we can also talk about what's targeting the red.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what Mitty was wearing. We don't know what John was wearing.
And what also is really interesting to me is that Mitty and the little boy, what was his name? Paul. They both were attracted themselves, almost like a possession.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like they were so enamored by the mountains, which is another thing. It's like Paula, that's what she chose to do to free her. It's like it was calling her. And I didn't mention this because, first off, I don't like when true crime podcasters immediately are like, oh, they were depressed. I'm not.
Yeah.
If you disappear, I'm not immediately blaming that on
Absolutely
your mental
not.
state,
Yeah.
So I do want to say that her roommate did mention that they had both been struggling with some sort of depression and anxiety at the time. But really, though, who was not as a college student at that point in time?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's why I didn't really want to throw it in the story, because her parents were like, no, you're trying to spin that.
Something else happened to our daughter.
Especially because we never found her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have found her. Exactly. Yeah. And what's really interesting to me is that Paula, when she went out, she picked a beautiful day, 50 and sunny.
Yes, beautiful.
But the temperature in the mountains dropped to 9 with 3 inches of snow.
First
overnight, in hours.
In hours.
Because she went in the afternoon.
Yes.
So
at 2:30.
That's crazy. Someone can I don't know. Anyway, my second theory is a different dimension. So some theorize that the Glastonbury Mountain exists in an alternate dimension. Ooh. And I think this really goes well with the story of the bus.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
What was his name? Why am I? James.
Sorry,
I was about to say
James
John.
on the bus. How he just switched.
They said it was literally when they crossed over the border of the triangle.
His body, maybe his vibration was right there with it, and it met at the exact same time as that dimension, intersects with ours, and he just crossed right over.
He just crossed
and
right
disappeared.
over.
But what's crazy is that if he did switch to an alternate dimension, he'd still be on that bus not thinking a damn thing about this reality.
No.
You know? So it's, I have here in my notes, this theory flows with the vortex and the portal theory. People who disappear are accidentally jumping to a different dimension. They're going to continue to live their life not knowing that they're missing in their actual reality, which I think is a good case with James.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely, because he just turned into thin air.
Oh my God. Like, how does that happen?
That just doesn't happen.
It's mind-blowing. Like, I wish that bus had cameras.
I know.
You know, like, I wish
it's not like it was just him and the bus driver, and the bus driver said this. There was, like, multiple other witnesses.
that saw him there. I wonder what he was wearing.
I don't know. People said that everybody that went missing was wearing red.
That's crazy.
But I couldn't confirm that. I only knew for
maybe,
sure Paul
you know
and
how,
Paula.
like, bulls are attracted to the color red?
Yes.
So what if Bigfoot, which is my next theory, is attracted to the color red?
That's what I'm thinking.
And I think it's interesting that the very, very first case with the hunters, how he was propped up, it looked like he had been drugged.
Yes.
And propped up against a tree. Bigfoot. Are you kidding me? That's the Bennington monster right there.
Right.
And just like bulls, maybe Bigfoot is attracted to the color red.
Right.
And there's so many sightings in this area of Bigfoot. It's not even funny. Like, I think we said this when we tried to record it last night.
You know what? I think I messed up.
What?
I think I totally messed up. One of these cases with the men, I'm assuming it has to be John, who was propped up against a tree. He didn't die from a gunshot wound. His autopsy came back saying that he had been squeezed to death.
I have chills.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally messed that up because when you just said that, I was like, no, that's right. Yeah, his autopsy came back saying that his lungs had been crushed.
Okay, what can crush a person's lungs like that?
Well, I'm telling you, a bear wouldn't because they're going to eat you.
Right, they're going to attack you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I messed that up. It was definitely in my notes. I must have just
skipped right over it
because I think he was shot, but it was like in a place that wouldn't have killed him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was just squeezed to death.
By Bigfoot, by the Bennington monster. Yeah, like we said this when we recorded last night, and then we redid it again today, but when we were talking about a little bit about Bigfoot, a lot of the TV shows that you see on Bigfoot, they're based right here out of Vermont. And actually, another crazy fact is, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when I talked about Bigfoot and the National Park conspiracy, I told a story about what was that?
What the fuck was that? Well, that was fucking weird.
Yeah, that was weird. We're not sure what that was. But anyway, so in that episode, I talked about a man who was adamant about getting the FBI to investigate the theory of Bigfoot. And in this, he sent a piece of black hair that he didn't recognize as like a black bear or anything like that. He sent it to the FBI and they ran an analysis on it. And they said that it was just a deer hair. I don't know any deer hair that has black hair, but whatever. This hair was actually from the Glastonbury Mountain in Vermont.
Of course it was.
So he had actually captured, I think with that story, he had captured a video on his trail cam. I think that's where that went. And that was in that mountain. So that's really crazy. So the FBI has files on Bigfoot here in this location.
That is so crazy. That's why I recognize the area. Because whenever I was reading about all this shit, I was like, I know this.
We talked about that at some point. Yeah. So that's really freaking crazy. My fourth theory I have is the man-eating rock. What if that legend is totally real and people are just like unlucky enough and it just swallows them whole? But that's just like a fun legend. Yeah,
but like really though, think about it though. If Paula's out walking by herself, now Midia doesn't make sense because.
But if it draws them like a siren.
That's what I mean. Like, but okay, for Midia it doesn't make sense because he was like, not in a like leisurely way going out. But Paula, maybe she went and sat on a rock. Just to chill. Paul. And James was on a bus, so that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it doesn't work with him. But
I think
that the area just there's so much going on that I think every theory could possibly be true. You know, like maybe there is a man-eating rock, but also there's portals and different dimensions and Bigfoot, and like it's just such a high spiritual area that
like so much going on energetically.
But that's crazy about Mitty, because he was in this like trance. Do you know what I mean? Like he just started walking away without saying anything, and stop talking. He's a guide, right? He's a hunting guide. Like you're not going to just walk away from your group,
right? And he's like trying to get away from them. Like it was weird.
Yeah, very weird. My fifth conspiracy I have is a possibility of a cult, and I'm not talking about like your basic cult. Like it would be more of like a demonic cult, and maybe they're attracted to the color red. And I think when I think of this cult, I think of combining a cult with the idea of feral people.
Yeah,
like it's not like, you know, a publicized cult that they're on the radios like swarming you in. Like I'm thinking it's more of like a feral people.
This just sounds a lot like me. This sounds a lot to me like the lost people of the Appalachian Mountains, the feral people there.
Right.
Because that is real.
And cults thrive in abandoned places. And in this location, you have 2 abandoned towns with 6 people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like they could so easily survive out there and live a life and never be found.
Yeah. Especially if like people.
And it's so dense.
Yeah, it's dense. It's dead silent. You can't see anybody. You have great hiding. There's tons of caves. Tons of caves.
You have Hell's Hollow.
Yeah. It's where they are.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so I think the mountains are a perfect place for a cult. If you're listening to this and you're trying to create a cult, please don't go there and say that Creeps and Crimes recommended it.
We have a place for you.
Yeah. Anyway.
It'll be $14.50 a month.
My personal favorite is, of course, extra freaking terrestrials.
Yeah.
So the state of Vermont is such a... We didn't mention this when I talked about my whole spiel at the beginning, but I wanted to save it to the end because it's important for the theories part. The state of Vermont is a huge hub for UFO spottings. And they're actually one of the most states with the highest UFO accounts and reports. And
weren't they like the first full investigation?
They were the very first investigation or the first reporting of a UFO sighting and like an abduction.
And and what's that group that investigates UFOs? It's like MRFO or...
Oh, yeah.
Weren't they founded over there, or are they found in the West?
No, they are. I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name.
I literally know. We've talked about it before. Whatever, we'll get back to it later.
Whatever, but so they're really popular in UFO reportings and sightings, and especially in the Bennington Triangle area. It is really, really common there to see strange lights in the sky, like you would at Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
Actually, in 1984. Tons, when I say tons, like I'm talking about numerous accounts, like probably 20-30 people reported seeing these silo-shaped lights, so like spherical, you know, shaped lights that were coming down from the sky but going alongside up Glastonbury Mountain.
Jesus.
So like what if the inside of that mountain is just this giant freaking...
It's like the city of Ember or like the Lemurians.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So...
That makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense for so much shit.
Well, it makes sense if the Lemurians spread out underground to come up to another mountain.
Right. Like it does say, bigger. Like, or another type of civilization that did that to hide from the Great Flood. They went and did exactly what the Lemurians did, but on the east side of the United States. Yeah. So that's freaking crazy. I don't know. Taylor.
That is crazy.
What do you think?
Well,
I think it makes sense a lot for the bus.
Yeah.
Actually, because
it does kind of tie in a lot of these together. The time,
exactly. But what is weird is that most abductions will report in not dawn, what's the thing? Dusk.
Yeah.
Evening time when it is darker out.
Well, these are in the winter.
That's true.
So it is darker out early.
It does get darker,
especially if you're out there with like no lights really, and they're far east. So when it's getting dark here at 5 for us, it's kind of earlier for them, even though we're in the same time zone.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
My last theory that I have, and I know you're gonna try to debunk me on this, but let me rant my spiel first.
Okay, go ahead.
Is a serial killer. So this is what I think. I think that for the disappearances to be going on as long as they have, it is probably some type of like generational family serial killer that has continued its hunt in this area because they're getting away with it. They know all the ins and outs. They know the caves. They know the hollows. So they're able to,
Well, it'd be like if it was feral people.
Right, exactly.
It's like the feral people and the serial killer kind of are intertwined.
And I'm not saying that these families are guilty, but it's the same two to three families that are staying in this area. What is keeping you there?
There's nothing there.
But yeah, what is keeping these families there? Like we said, there's no Target, there's no Starbucks,
Nope.
There's nothing there that.
And not that you have to have that to survive, but
But where are you working?
Really, though.
How are you creating an income?
If there's literally not even a railroad at this point to get up there, and you can only drive up like a quarter of the mountain, you have to walk the rest of the way.
How do you make car payments?
How do you pay bills? Do you even have bills? Is there electricity there?
Right. Well, I'd assume usually when you're off grid, you're solared. But back then in the, the 80s, you're not solared. So how are you getting to and from work, paying for electricity, or you're not? You have candles and fireplaces and whatnot. I don't know. I think a serial killer is a good chance, or I think this cult that I was referring to earlier could be just like a giant family of generational serial killers.
I agree.
Go ahead and debunk me.
I agree with the generational serial, like the community of just like maybe carnivores or something that live up there. Like, I agree with that. Like, that one is a very like valid argument that we could have. Not so much for James on the bus,
right?
Or for like Mitty and like hearing a calling, but they were like sirens. If this group of people,
like, they're not really human.
Well, there's like a lot of water in the area, so it technically could be sirens,
right? Oh,
or
my
water
God.
babies or something.
Water babies.
Oh shit! I just got chills on. My heart is hurting.
Did we just solve it?
I think so. My body just confirmed it.
And then they just dumped the bodies of the man-eating rock. Oh, so they're never found.
Oh, fuck. Because it's like they're being called there. But for like a traditional serial killer that I would cover on here, it's been pretty much debunked, not by me, but by the FBI. Basically saying that the the lack of consistencies in the gender and age and look of the victims is all over the place. And like in the way that they go disappearing, like they disappear, it's like they're being called.
Yeah.
It's not like they're being, like maybe Paul, not Paula, but Paul, maybe he wandered and got picked up by like a kidnapper. Mm-hmm. Paula, possibly, but there were so many people out there. Like, I just don't find that convincing to me. And then John, the guy that was murdered with the gun laying beside him that was squeezed to death.
Yeah.
That one is weird.
That is so weird.
That one's weird.
But what if they're like a serial killer family that's just like on the hunt, and like once you get to a certain age you go on a hunt, and that's why it's the same for those two cases, the same day.
Yeah.
And they like, it's like a tradition, like
and when you
get to this certain age, it's only
in the winter, cold months. It's not ever, none of those disappearances were in a regular, it's like September, August to February.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hitting them on their birthdays. And
yes.
That's what this like, I don't know.
Fuck.
I don't know, but I think there's something freaking going on there. Whether it's a portal.
What's your favorite conspiracy?
I think they're all tied together for me, for like the energy vortex, the dimension, the ETs, because I think ETs run portals. Like, I think they're the ones that are controlling them. Because even when we saw the last alien abduction I covered, the woman said that they were creating portals into her bedroom wall, and they could just snag her. Like, it's not like they're pulling you up in a spaceship like you see in movies.
Was that on Patreon?
I don't remember.
I think that was on Patreon.
Oh, they haven't even
Whales, right?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm sorry. You'll hear that on Patreon. Actually, it'll be out. It'll be out tomorrow.
Yeah. So she was saying that they can create portals just right there in her like ceiling in her bedroom, and they're able to just pull her out. So I think that all three tied together, the dimension, the portals, the extraterrestrials. Maybe it's just such like a high energy place that maybe there is a man-eating rock. I don't know.
No, really though, that's what I was gonna say. I think the energy in the place is so crazy, and that it has the ability to harbor, you know, these
anomalies.
these cryptid creatures, these things. I think this is where it would exist.
And I think the energy being so crazy is the reason that these towns have become abandoned.
Yeah.
And I think that I wouldn't say more so on the paranormal side, but more so on the supernatural side, that people are just like, what is, they're getting pushed away, but certain people are getting called to for certain reasons. And I don't know those reasons. I just think it is one giant anomaly. That's for fucking fact.
That is for sure.
And it is definitely totally fucked up.
Yeah, it is totally fucked up. I liked how you did that.
Yeah.
I
was going to try to do it and like ease into totally fucked up.
Guys, this wasn't much of a trifecta, but it was, but it wasn't. It was more of like the true creeps and crimes.
We hit the creeps, so we hit the crimes.
Yeah, we hit like everything about the creeps,
and that's
everything
on
about the crimes. And that's on done.
And that's on period.
Oh, Morgan keeps putting her hand up.
You guys know.
Oh, goodness gracious. I like this episode. I wish I could have delivered it to you better and there wasn't a fucking power saw outside my window right now.
I know, literally. The amount of traffic going on right now.
This is insane.